Welcome back to another episode of STEM and Stilettos. This is your host, Zofia Morales. And today I'm going to talk with the PR she-devil of Silicon Valley on tech storytelling. So if you've struggled to raise money, you got the meeting with the investor, but not the check, you've got great tech, but no traction, then you have arrived at the right place. We are going to talk about how the story can unlock those situations for you when you've got the rest of your fundamentals straight, but nothing's coming together. Our guest today is Donna Loughlin, and she's the president and founder of LMGPR, a Silicon Valley-based PR agency known for her work with futurists and innovators and for helping people move their businesses forward. She's had more than 25 years of experience working in technology industries in AI, automotive, robotics, aerospace, cybersecurity, and consumer electronics. She's also the host of Before It Happened Innovation Podcast. Welcome to the show, Donna. I'm so happy to have you here with me today.
Well, thank you so much. I'm a huge advocate of STEM and STEAM. So to be on your show and listening in often, I'm just excited to be in the hot seat today.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you here because it takes a village really to get a concept out in the world, whether it's a new piece of software or a gizmo or a service. A lot of us like to think, oh, well, we'll just go out and pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. But it really takes more than me, myself, and I to make that happen. So I'm so happy to have you here with us today to help flesh out the team, so to speak.
Exactly. And everything you described might be overwhelming to a founder or a first-time entrepreneur or solopreneur. And so my superpower is I listen. I listen to their authentic story, their journey, the so what, who cares, why they decided to trade in the dog for a cat or sell their car or mortgage their house or whatever it was taking them. They're particularly women. They're on a lot of venture capitalists and seed investment groups or accelerator groups. But oftentimes the women entrepreneur is kind of left behind. I mean, keeping in mind there's only 28% of women in STEM to begin with. And then out of that, what is going to be the percentage of the one that decides to break away and form their own business? And so I've been doing public relations storytelling for more than 20 years. I've had my business. Prior to that, I was a news reporter, and that took me into the tech sector because I covered
Yeah.
technology and innovation.
So tell me a little bit about your story. How did you end up going into reporting, and how did the reporting finally lead you into technology?
Well, I kind of started when I was 10. And I know that
Okay.
sounds a little crazy, but my father and his brothers owned a publishing network of regional papers in California, in the San Francisco Bay Area, Northern California.
Sure.
And one of my uncles was a news reporter, not just for the paper, but he wrote for many, many publications. And I used to love to troll behind him and go out into where he did these interviews. And I got to go to the coolest places like NASA and the Hoover
Yeah.
Tower and Lawrence Livermore Lab. And even on the Jacques Cousteau, I forgot the name of the ship. It was a
Yeah,
Jacques Cousteau
Calypso
interview.
or something. Yeah.
Calypso, that's right. And then down in the Monterey Language Institute. And so outside the classroom, I just have this really amazing, I just like living world of access
Diversity
to
of
these.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah. And you think about it, it's like at the time it was late 70s, 80s. I wasn't connected to anything, right? Go to the library twice a week, get a huge stack of books, still had encyclopedias. And so having access to these places that you can discover in person were great. So one of my challenges I had in that time frame was I had a very thick speech impediment. My grandmother was from Scotland. She
Hmm.
spoke with a brogue.
Most
And when I
people
was
don't call that a speech impediment.
right, I inherited a brogue mixed with a speech pattern that didn't make a lot of sense to most people, including
Sure.
my own family. So when I was in kindergarten until I was about 12, I was in speech therapy
Sure.
consistently, like 5 days a week at school, pulled out of my classroom, after school, in the summertime. And one of the things that I learned in the process is that if I could act and I could actually role play, I built the confidence that I needed to get over that. And so
Ah.
my uncle was great in nurturing and mentoring me to basically say, my family called me Rocky, which is funny because on my desk I have a piece of the Blarney Stone. I have a rock that I gave, a paperweight rock that I gave to my dad when I was in kindergarten, and it just has like some little, you know,
Googly eyes or
gravel,
yeah,
fish gravel from an
yeah.
aquarium glued on it. It's nothing fancy, but it's traveled many places with me. And then I had this other stone that was given to me literally at the gas station one day. This man asked me to put my hand out, and I was a little
Yeah,
hesitant to do
leery.
so.
What's gonna happen
And then
here?
and he puts this stone in my hand, and one side it said never strong enough, and the other side said faith. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. So this collection of rocks, and the rocks have their own story now. But I had this little rock I would put in my hand and this pebble. And that gave me, some people use paperclip in speech training and
Sure.
public speaking. But in this case, my uncle said, put this rock in your hand and just squeeze it. And when you talk, don't think about it. Just think about your Barbara Walters or your Nancy Drew or whatever I wanted to tap to. And that just gave me the confidence to ask the questions instead of just saying, I have a question. And then, and
Yes.
then, right. And then tell my uncle. And then, so my career literally started the day I was brave enough to open my mouth and ask questions because I was very precocious, a lot of curiosity. And one of my favorite trips was going up my Hamilton Range to the Lick Observatory. And I think one of the best kept stories, and it's not secret, but it's one of the best kept stories of the origin of the Silicon Valley, going from ranches and cherry orchards and all the places that I grew up in, was the story about the observatory and the lens that cracked, that was transferred all the way from France delicately. And then when they went to install it in the telescope, it was
Uh-oh.
cracked.
Oh
So they had to start all over
no.
again.
No.
And so I think it's just an amazing story of that dedication and strive for excellence and being connected with the universe. And although Lick was not a scientist, he's a very wealthy businessman, successful businessman, but he loved astronomy. And what a gift he left. And it's still being used today with UC Santa Cruz, he
Sure.
occupies it and some other research groups. But to be able to go to the observatory and see the galaxy and be able to see the Milky Way closer than one might, and to be able to see, just have access that beyond the naked eye. And I'm so excited for the month of June because we have a lot of really amazing two moons and the dark moon. And I don't know all the things that I was looking at the list of NASA. And it's just like, oh, I got to make sure I get up early or stay up late to watch all this. So asking questions, really looking at detail. And we live in an age now where people don't necessarily ask questions, they just respond and they look at everything waist high. And if we're only looking at everything waist high to where our phone is kind of attached to our hip, we miss a lot of things.
Oh
And so
yes.
to me, the storytelling that my grandmother would tell me stories, she would read books that 4 to 5 year old children aren't that engaged with. But I love to this day Elizabeth Barrett Browning and
Yes.
reading Emerson's essays. And she would just read me these really mature books, not children's storybooks.
Yeah.
But I love reading and I love stories. And so she had a real gift of storytelling. So between that and my family structure, that kind of launched at the time. I didn't know that launched my career. Then through high school, I was journalism courses and school paper editor in chief and class president 2 years in a row. And then I went off to what I thought was a smart thing to do, was study electrical engineering. And I wanted to get a degree that was, I could solve problems, complex
Yes.
things. And I loved it, but I didn't feel that that was actually my calling to be an engineer. So then I got a degree in communications and journalism. And I decided to put the two together, which was, now it made sense that the storytelling and asking questions and interviewing allowed me to write well about complex subject matter.
Right.
And
Well,
so I was
and the scientific training also gives you the structure to understand what these scientific types are trying to say to you.
exactly, exactly. And that's one of the things I think that's happening right now, like with artificial intelligence. We constantly, it seems like with any new innovation, the robots are taking our job. Now AI is
Yeah,
taking our
yeah,
job.
yeah, exactly.
There is so many jobs available and new career opportunities in artificial intelligence and machine learning. And I mean, it's just, there's layers and layers upon layers of new opportunities and every vertical market as well, not just in the tech. You can go into science and pharma and different areas as well. I was a news reporter when I got out of school. I did internships at the Washington Post, major paper, majorly intimidating, but it's great. Showed up my first day of work in my hand-me-down little navy blue suit and lots of accessories to make my suit extend. Learned from brilliant people that just mentored me and took me under their wing. Did a lot of economics and political Capitol Hill type stuff.
Sure, yeah.
A great place to learn. And then I was able to work on aerospace, which was very exciting, aerospace and defense. And then that gave me really the hunger that I had for innovation and tech.
Yeah.
So from there, I went back, finished college, and then out of college, I got an internship with a paid internship, which didn't happen very often, with
Yeah.
Reuters. And then within 90 days, they hired me. And so I worked for now Thomson Reuters, but
You go,
Reuters
girl.
in Chicago, Reuters in New York, and then Reuters in London. And then after I was in London, I decided I wanted to get my master's in journalism, and I went back to UC Berkeley. So I was a working professional, getting my professional degree, which was at the time, I didn't think it was a lot of
Unusual.
work, but it was a
Yeah,
lot of work.
it is kind of unusual because you and I kind of share a generation, and you either went to school or you worked. There wasn't a lot of flexibility around that. So to be able to do both is a feat in and of itself.
Yeah. Do you remember the TV show That Girl? It was in
Yes,
Chicago and she was independent. And that show, I remember watching it and I was really young going, I want to be that girl.
that
I want to
girl.
live in
Yeah.
this place. I want to live in the city, you know. And then when I was actually living in Chicago, no, I wasn't in the South Side Chicago, although there was a lot of great places to eat there. And I learned very quickly that wherever the taxis were is where the good food is. But I
Yes.
was living in Greektown and in a little tiny place and kind of worked myself. I'm working a lot. And not only did I do that job, I worked at NPR on radio. And then I also worked as a coat check girl at Marshall Fields. So I did a lot.
Nice. Yes, you certainly did. So, when did you kind of marry the tech sector as a career? You kind of
Wow.
were curious as a child. You brushed up against it when you were at the Washington Post.
You know, I didn't want to be in technology, to be honest with you. The land of heart's delight, which is what the Silicon Valley was known as when it was just fruit and nuts, you know,
Yes.
before Apple Computer. But there was a lot of defense in the valley. Lockheed Marietta and companies like that had already been established, and HP was established, and they were connected to the defense and stuff. So it all started just making sense that my playground, so to speak, and access to things that my uncle exposed me to just kind of just made sense. It's just like putting Legos together, you know, and it's just like I got all these pieces and what can I make? And the more I got into it and into my mind that I actually, you know, I left reporting, I was recruited to work for a company called 3Com.
Mm,
And 3Com was known, I mean, it was Dr. Bob Metcalf. I was the founder and inventor of Ethernet. So this was pre.com. This is the networking boom. And I was working on a combination of data center infrastructure, networking equipment. So all
yeah.
that was happening. That was exciting. And that's cool again, because now everything in the data center is AI and it's, you
Yeah,
know,
exactly. And
I,
everybody needs to be connected to it. Yes.
yeah, so I have all that legacy background. But the company also had a consumer product called the Palm, which was at the time
Yes.
pre BlackBerry and a very cool product. So I was fortunate I was able
I
to work on both the
loved the
consumer.
Palm
It
Pilot.
was a cool product.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a little micro, for those who don't know, look it up. It's like a micro etch a sketch in a sense. Um,
Yeah.
but you kind of beam things over to others, and it
Yeah,
seemed at the time.
you could write your notes on it. It would remind you of your stuff. I loved my
Yeah.
Palm.
I mean, it was actually, in my opinion, probably one of the smartest products that, you know, personal computing products that we had literally in the palm of our hand. And so I'm fortunate to work on that. And then I worked for a string of other tech companies in house. Again, learning, taking all my journalism and curiosities into the tech sector. And that's where I really learned that I didn't need to be the expert. I just
Mm.
needed to know to ask the right questions to get the
Right.
information that I needed to distill, to write the press release, to pitch a story, and to make it compelling. And so I got to work on a lot. It was a great foundation, transition, and transformation for me. So I didn't really set to go out to do PR. It chose me. And I think it was just one of these magic moments where I went, worked for a number of other companies. I worked for Sun Microsystems, which was another Silicon Valley think tank of a company, really great, one of the best
They made some really
managed.
good medium-sized computers, honestly.
Yeah, but there I got to work on cybersecurity, but I also got to work on Java, and I got, that was a hot thing at the time. And then I got to work on all the things that were related to the on-ramp to the internet. So it was the
Yeah.
networking boom, then the dot-com boom, and then like now the AI boom. And I think one of my personal things is that when you're going to embrace technology and innovation and you come from I'm more STEAM than I am STEM. I'm kind of
Yes.
have the left and the right brain both I'm a sponge. I just love a curiosity factor overload when it comes to how things work.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because Dr. Bob Metcalf, years later, and I'm saying like maybe 15 years later after the fact that I had worked with him, he came out with a whole series of books called How Things Work. And I just thought it was
Yes.
great. And I remember buying those books for my nieces and nephews and getting them to sign it because I think we should always be asking why and why
Yeah,
not,
exactly.
and
I love that.
deconstructing the narrative. And so that's what I do in telling the story where you grew up and what you ate for lunch and what you read to me is as interesting as telling me why you designed a particular product to solve a problem.
Yeah, I
Because
love that.
sometimes we forget why we're solving the problem. So when I met Dr. Bob Metcalf as a reporter and not an employee, I didn't really want to talk about Ethernet. I
Yeah.
wanted to know how come Ethernet versus token ring at the time, and I was still in my 20s.
Yeah. So why? What's wrong with token ring? Why do we need Ethernet, right?
Yeah, and so I wanted to know prior to him going to MIT and becoming the genius that he became, and the fact that we all have Ethernet in our world now, what was he inspired by? Was there a book? Was there a professor? Was there some toy he had as a child that, did he take apart things?
Was
It,
there some sci-fi story that he went, oh, it'd be really cool if we could design something like that, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And so he just thought I was probably a little peculiar and definitely precocious. And then he told his head of marketing to go hire me. And I guess I wasn't a snoopy reporter.
Okay, very good. So we are up on our first break already. And I think as far as a thought exercise for this break, I'd invite you to take a little time with your own story and deconstruct a little bit. What were your sources of inspiration? What were your motivations for you to get your thing started? Why are you passionate about the problem that you're solving in the marketplace? And hang with us. We'll be right back from the break.
Oh, check the loud, the wolf here. Tech is ours and we show no fear. No fear. Oh, no fear. No fear.
Thanks for hanging in with us through the break. This is your host, Zofia Morales. I'm back with the amazing and wonderful Donna Loughlin. And before the break, we asked you to kind of deconstruct your story and your motivations a little bit, because I think oftentimes the missing piece for us highly technical types is the story. We think everybody should be able to just look at the technology and see the amazing brilliance that it is, not recognizing that we have a particular vision that not everyone has. So let's walk through, how do we start to deconstruct and reconstruct a story that perhaps might interest an investor?
Yeah, so we're all familiar with companies like Apple Computer or Tesla and companies that kind of hold their big announcements and once a year
Yeah,
the mic drops and we all get excited because it's like
tremendous cultural
the new thing.
sway. Yeah,
Yeah, but behind that, there's a lot of work that happens. And that's what say the magic behind the curtain, the wizard behind the curtain. I worked with a company called Monarch Tractor, and when the CEO called me, it was quite funny because he said I'd worked with him on an automotive project before, and he called asking for a referral to work on this tractor that he was now involved in.
Sure.
And I said, well, I got my master's thesis in democratization of the farm workers union. So being a California girl and growing up in one of the biggest, agricultural
Yeah,
belts, I was kind of excited I could pull it out of my back pocket and use it because I'd really never used it.
sure.
And so the first thing that he shared with me was I went down and I went to see the prototype of the tractor. And he tells me the story about his purpose. He grew up in India and he grew up in a farming family. And we go back to our roots. Everybody has connections with somebody in the family who was a farmer,
Yeah,
most likely.
exactly. I've got dairy farming on mine.
There you go. And I have ranching. I immediately started thinking, so who cares? Right?
Yeah,
It's a tractor. John Deere is a dominant player. Holland is another dominant player.
yeah.
There are
Cat
other,
is making a little traction over there.
yeah.
Yes.
And so, what is this little mighty tractor that could, right? What's the story here?
Yeah.
And so, at the time, the prototype didn't do much more than move around. It was still in the IP, the intelligence, and all this stuff is in the
Big tractor
process.
stuff. Yeah.
But ultimately, the tractor, the story was that this was a tractor that was actually going to not just be a sustainable green tractor, that there was an EV story. But the
Okay.
part that I really got excited about was the intelligence and the data that would allow the farmer to do, or it could be a micro farm or a constellation farm, the most essential thing for independent farmers, or to put food on the table and be able to have revenue.
Yeah,
And if they
exactly.
don't have the right tools, they don't have the right crops, and they have bad weather like California. It was interesting because the time we were just coming out of COVID.
Yep.
It was actually, that's not true. We were just before COVID because we hit COVID because this is 2020. And we had a bunch of fires and we had drought and we just had all these horrific things. So it was very relatable to think, wow, I'm going back to my 4-H days. I'm going back to my understanding of hanging out in Steinbach country and talking to farm workers and talking to the labor and the farmers and their pain points. And I brought up all these different components. And then it was amazing because Carlo Mondavi was the chief farm officer, and he's the grandson of Carlo Mondavi, who basically put the Napa,
I was going to say the winemaker.
yeah,
Yes.
the Napa zip code on the map. And so now I had layers of stories. So now I had the founder's story, and it's the founder and how his passion, but now he's attracting legacy players. He also had another member in the leadership team that came out of Tesla who had built the Tesla Gigafactory. So that's another really cool component to the story. So now you have the founding team story, solid team that needs to be in the room with the venture capitalists to get the money. And it's about trust and the people in the room. So that
Yeah.
story's done. Then there's the innovation story. And the innovation story becomes the benefits of the innovation. And I always say technology in the wrong hands could be detrimental and bad.
Yep.
Technology in the right hand, in the proper hands, and being not misused can be amazing. So now we have an autonomous tractor that is electric and it's collecting data, and the data that it's collecting is going to be invaluable for the key benefit of being able to manage and have better insights to your crops,
Yeah.
competitive advantage, and revenue. So now I have full.
And you have time to think about your situation because you're not running the darn tractor yourself.
Right, right. And a tractor actually becomes a companion, right? You could either,
Yes.
in the state of California, you do have to have a person in the seat. You can have duality. You can have
Yeah.
more than one tractor. It's not taking away jobs. It becomes a tool because you need a tractor operator, and tractor operators is a industry, just like it's in all these industrial jobs that we don't have enough talent. And that's
Yes.
a tractor driver is, and mechanic is another one. So now there's this whole ecosystem of stories. So those are the types of stories that we curated that we then took to the media that gave them the visibility they need to get the funding. Then we had to go back and do more proof of concept and prove that there was a need, deploy these tractors, put them in actual farms, and it was dairy farm and wineries and other micro farms, and be able to truth the concept. That company, I helped in over a few years, I think it was like 2.5 years, a couple $100 million. I mean, articles in Bloomberg and in Forbes and Wall Street Journal and CNN First Moves and just all the places that they needed to go. On another spectrum,
Yeah.
on the consumer side, I
Well,
work.
before we go to the consumer side, I think I want to kind of shine a light on the story that you put together for the investors, because it wasn't just look at our shiny new tech, right?
Right.
You talked a lot about the team that was behind that tech. And I think it's very easy as a founder to forget that the investor invests as much in the team as they do the technology.
Exactly. So the conversation I had with the CEO, and I said, okay, so was your father a farmer? Yes. Was your grandfather a farmer? Yes. I go, oh, okay. So we have a
A
engineer
legit
technology person
farmer,
literally
yes.
going back to his roots, literally
Yeah.
back to his roots. And he hadn't even thought about that. Right. So I said, that's a lot of integrity. We need to incorporate that in your story
Yeah.
because you might be in Silicon Valley, but you come from a family with one of the oldest professions.
Yeah,
And now you got
exactly.
Carla Mondavi, who is like fifth generation, your family, your third generation, prior. And then the funny thing was the third leadership team member did come from a family of farmers, but he did come from a family of tinkers and thinkers and building big things. And so it
Yeah,
did also make sense, right? But the
exactly.
people in the room and having the right story to pitch really
Then
formulates
yeah,
that
you've got to
character.
have the right team sitting there. And I think it's easy as a technical founder to go in, well, we've got all this technical smarts, but yeah, do you have operational smarts? Do you have marketing smarts? Do you have business smarts to go along with it? How deep do you understand the industry that you're selling into? All of that makes a difference.
Yeah. And on the consumer side, I was going to share
Yeah.
sometimes it's harder to make a product tangible because the innovation is imagineered and you don't
Hmm.
have the money to bring it to market yet. And so that brings a whole other set of complexities.
Yeah, let's
Oh,
talk about how we approach that. Because I know traction is always a big thing that they're looking for when you go into one of these presentations, and is typically one of the more challenging things to get early on, especially.
yeah. So what we need, this company was called Skully. It was at the time Google Glass was very popular.
Yeah.
And when I first got the demonstration of Google Glass, I thought, wow, this is really cool, but I don't know, do I need this? And
Yeah.
then I met this helmet company, and they said that they were basically going to be the Google Glass, but for motorcycling. So there's a lot of vulnerabilities when you ride a motorcycle or
Sure.
a scooter or any two-wheel vehicle. And a helmet could actually be restrictive. It's safety, and not all states require helmets, but they should. But it's safety and protection, but it also has limitations to what
Yeah.
you can do.
It
So
your
there's
visual field gets smaller. There's not as much peripheral, and you need all the peripheral you can get on one of
right,
these.
and your
Yeah.
situational awareness suffers.
Yeah.
And so what this company set out to do was to basically create the idea of a fighter pilot helmet, the intelligence of a fighter pilot helmet, and the neurological components of like Google Glass and how you see and how you
Yeah.
connect with things, but for consumers.
Okay.
So we
Yeah.
had to create video to take you on a journey. We had to take people on a journey, almost like a sci-fi Barbarella, take people in a cinematic journey of a place that they've not been. The founder was a neuroscientist, so he knew how to explain it, but we couldn't take people on this journey. So we created video, like literally augmented reality video of what it was going to be like for the rider in the seat on a motorcycle. We had a physical prototype of the helmet, but without that limited demonstration, you still couldn't imagine
Yeah.
because what if you've never been on a motorcycle? But the
Mhm.
story was really about making the connection between human and technology, the same way we talk about robots and humans working together, and making that connection of that this was going to be a new layer and a new platform that was going to transform the experience. So now you think about not just for commuters or for day trippers, but how it could be used for law enforcement, how it could be
Right.
used for municipalities, for how could it be used for even like meter maids and people that might be on motorcycles, or how can that data intelligence be collected to prevent what was initially the goal as motorcycle accident. I was very vulnerable.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware what happened, but now I'm going to have this little black box like a plane would, but in my helmet. And that's going to be
Yes.
invaluable in telling this and telling for insurance. So I coined the phrase that it was like having eyes in the back of your head.
There you
And
go.
and that simplified all the complexities of everything to the consumer market. And so it was founder story, neuroscientist, had an accident, real tragedy,
Yeah.
turned it into a vision. And now we allowed all of us to visualize. Shortly after that, Meta came. Pre-Meta was Oculus Rift and
Sure.
augmented reality. I'd also worked with another company that did augmented reality headsets. They're still very actively out there, Railware, and they were for deep industrial jobs like line and oil rigs and things like that. But going back to the story is like the founder's story, the entrepreneurial idea, got to pull the thread back. You have to look back. I would say, look, the windshield is bigger than the rearview mirror, but it still helps to look back and see, what's my real instinct that I wanted to solve this problem? And why was I chosen to solve this problem? And how is this problem going to benefit the market in which I'm going to be taking the product to? And it needs to be believable when you're asking for big checks.
Exactly. And I love that you chose a format that was going to make up for the lack of actual physical product in your hand in this case, right? Because it's not like you can give them a helmet and put them on a motorcycle in this minute to try it out, but you can give them the visual experience of what you're planning to put together and put that into a video. And so that's really compelling to show to an investor or to put out on Kickstarter or whatever your direction is that you're trying to raise this money. And it's a lot less expensive than a completed prototype.
Yeah, exactly. The prototypes are really hard. I'm currently working with companies in autonomous, with transportation, like supply chain, with window washing robots, hyper cars with swappable powertrains, electric motor bikes and motorcycles. They all have this intelligence and the connectivity that 20 years ago just didn't exist.
It was Jetsons stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, every day we think about it is what I'm excited about the world that we live in, the Jetsons world that we do kind of live in, is that I have a smart door lock.
Yep.
I have a smart home security system. I have a Nest. I actually keep Alexa off. I just mute her.
I don't like her listening in. So
I don't
I don't
so
turn her
off.
on either.
She's a little too chatty for me. But, I probably talk to Siri more than Alexa. Even my refrigerator. It's kind of funny because I was looking at the other day some old TV commercials and advertising for appliances, and it was like some of the complexities in like in the 50s and 60s of these appliances that they were selling had some really futuristic features. And I got a new refrigerator and they're trying to sell me the one with the panel with the digital screen. I'm like, I just want to get what I'm making for dinner out. I don't know. It was just too much for me.
Yeah, I don't need to see the calendar and the grocery list and the
right. Yeah. But once upon a time, a housewife or a homemaker or a professional, that girl, and a ice tray that actually was self-automating was a big deal.
A huge deal. And I love my ice maker.
Right. And so now the ice machine and the outside, mine's stuck right now. Just talking about ice is like more things can go wrong. I'm going, I just got this and the ice maker's stuck. So now I have to go call the appliance store, make an appointment. Probably going to take me 3 weeks. The guys will probably come over with a sledgehammer and whack it. And then I'll be like, it's like my IT guy saying, is it plugged? Is it on?
I don't think they whack it. I think they steam it. But same concept. So
maybe I should get my steamer out.
We're up on our second break already. Well, it might save you $300. What should we think about over this break regarding our stories? What kind of a troubleshooting perhaps could we do on the story we've been telling up to this point?
I think a good exercise is I have a terminology that I use a lot called Jumpstart. And to jumpstart your story and jumpstart your business, it goes in tandem. But if you think about three things that each one of us have that's uniquely that we own, that could be from your own personal zip code or from your big idea or your IP or your patents that you have. Think about three things that you can actually use as fuel injection that nobody else can claim. And maybe there's an idea lying there that you haven't brought to market or an approach to something. And think about, I don't know, I think Jimmy Neutron. If we were all little Jimmy Neutron, what would we be making in our lab? But I think that's part of a good story thread is if I was going to take this idea and jumpstart it, what are the three things that everyone needs to know?
Okay, I like that.
Without having a prototype.
I like that. So yeah, think about the three things that everyone needs to know. It might be about the IP, it might be about the team, it might be about the problem you're solving, it might be a little of all of those. And hang with us, we'll be right back from the break.
Oh, shout aloud, the wolf here. Tech is ours and we show no fear. No fear. No fear. No fear.
Thanks for hanging in with us through the break. This is Zofia Morales. I am back with the amazing and wonderful Donna Loughlin. And over the break, we asked you to think a little bit about the parts of your story where you can put some wow in, some pizzazz in as you're going out to tell this story to either land an investor or to gain some traction in your marketplace. Now that we've thought about that, Donna, who should we be telling our story to? How do we find the places to tell our story?
Finding the right people, I think, is the first thing is to look at your network. LinkedIn is invaluable because there are a lot of groups as well. So look at your own personal ecosystem in LinkedIn. And if you're not connected to me after listening to the show, you should reach out to me and say, I heard you on the show. Connect with me on LinkedIn.
And her LinkedIn will be in the show notes. So that's where you can find it.
Yeah, I love connecting with people and opening a door if I can. And so the power of the network, but also in LinkedIn, there's lots of groups. There's venture capital groups, there's accelerator groups, there's disciplinary groups by industry topic, automotive, aerospace, robotics, artificial intelligence. There's women working groups, meetup groups, tech groups. So all those things matter.
Well, and if you have a major university near you, check for a tech accelerator or a business startup incubator because a lot of them do have a translation department, they call it, where you can find those kind of resources as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And groups like STEM women's groups, Girls Who Code, those types of meetups in San Francisco Bay, Cerebral Valley events are every single night of the week. And so go to those events, go to conferences, ask questions, look at badges, be a little bit nosy, go to companies that might potentially could be a partner or maybe invest. The company that I mentioned, Monarch Tractor, they got a lot of their first funding after their friends and family funding. They're institutional agricultural industry investors versus going to the venture capital community. Venture capital was third.
Yeah,
I have another client that actually is a veteran founded and owned business, and there was veterans funds available. So if you're a veteran or served in any branch of the service, thanks for your service, but there's money there. There's money, there's grants, tons of grants, and there are automated services that can actually help you
find them. Yeah.
Find them. Yeah. There's also a really cool company out of Austin, Texas called Deep Reinvent. It is a platform for determining if your idea is already patented and give you a shortcut to finding out what your competition is. So do your work. It's really to vet out your work and see where is there an opportunity and where is there a void and where is there a gap. And then I think podcasts like this, connect, listen, be a sponge. And also I think you just don't be afraid to ask. Just like when I was a kid, don't be afraid
Exactly.
to ask.
Just ask the questions. I think one of the places that oftentimes we forget to look because we think we know is in our existing network. The people who are close to us, a lot of times we're like, oh, they don't have money. They don't know anybody. But if you start having the conversation with them, you'll discover that, oh, their brother's wife actually works with this person over here who's in that industry or who has money to invest over here. And so I think it's really easy to go, well, I don't have anyone in my existing network that might be a resource. And a lot of times, if you ask the questions, you'll discover, like playing 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, there actually are people.
Yeah. And I think also pitch competitions.
Yeah.
So looking for opportunities, whatever major metro that one lives near. Most of them are in person. So you do need to make a little trek if you don't live near a major metro, but tons of pitch competitions. Just get yourself waxed up, I say, and get out there and pitch and pitch your story. And because every time you pitch, you're going to get better and you're going to eventually get recognized. But if you don't do the work, it's just like, anything. You want to swim the English Channel. Well, you better be able to swim across the pool first, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's just like keep at it and be relentless, because there's one thing that every single one of the entrepreneurs and founders that I have worked with, and I have launched more than 800 companies, is their relentless drive.
Yes, just keep doing the thing. Don't let those brain worms get in your way. I know a lot of folks will come and say, well, this would be my ideal optimal investor, and I don't want to blow the opportunity. And it's like, no, no, no. The opportunity is there. Take the opportunity, do the best you can under the conditions that you've got. And if that one doesn't work out, just know there's another one behind that. There's another one behind that. Don't get married to this lead has got to be it or anything like that. Just keep churning. It's numbers, it's practice. It's keep doing the thing and getting better at the thing. Because it's worth doing badly until you can do it better.
And women it's always going to be a smaller number in the innovation and tech industry. I've gone to so many conferences and I kind of look around the room and I'm like, oh, there are only women in here again. And, I've gotten used to it because it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And I think of the movie Hidden Figures, right?
Yes.
And such a powerful movie on so many fronts about the contributions and the magnitude of what they contributed to was, could have been totally overlooked. And I think we all have to think about, what is our hidden figures moment? When do we actually get to come from the back and stand out in the front? Think like you're a Forbes 50 company. Think like you're, think bigger. Go in with that confidence. The same way I was talking about, I lacked confidence in being able to communicate and talk. I clearly don't lack that now, but I had to work into it.
And the only way you get the confidence is by doing the thing. I mean, bottom line, you can practice, that helps. But doing the thing is where the competence and the confidence really gets built. So find places to do the thing, regardless of how likely you feel like the outcome is, especially in the beginning, right? You need more at-bats is what you need.
Yeah, and I think a great thing to do is I make a list every day. I typically start on Sunday, and I will put some goals for the week of what I want to strive. And for each one of my clients, I also do visual boards.
Sure.
So I was on a call with a client yesterday and I surprised him, but behind me, I had a visual board that I used AI platform. I used a couple of different Canva and then also Claude. And I wanted them to imagine the places we can go. And so I had a cover of Wired, a cover of Bloomberg, a cover of a motorcycle publication and Rob Report. And they got really excited because it looked pretty good, right? And I said,
well, it's like, now I can see it happening. Yeah.
Right. So if we imagine this journey together, we can achieve it. So visualization and storyboarding or visual boards or whatever you want to call it, I just think it helps you make that list so much more easy, more attainable.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And it doesn't take the amount of time it used to take. You don't have to spend all Saturday afternoon doing this.
Yeah,
with
exactly.
the AI. So let's talk a little bit about how your work is coming out into the world. We've got just maybe 4 or 5 minutes left. So, how is your work showing up in the world? How can people engage with you?
Yeah, well, I'm in Silicon Valley, but my clients are all over the world. So I like networking with people all over the world. My core work that I'm doing, I shared a lot of it here today, but you can go to lmgpr.com, connect with me on LinkedIn, just Donna Loughlin will be in the links. Connect with me. Tell me what you're looking for. It doesn't necessarily need to be a PR story, but maybe you're looking for funding or you're looking to hire or you're looking to move to the Silicon Valley or you're looking to move away from the Silicon Valley. There are a lot of other pockets of innovation and tech besides the Silicon Valley. It just has its own little vibe and zip code, right? And sometimes I want to get away from the vibe, go to the spa, go to the beach, go to the redwoods or different places. But I think, and for me right now, we're almost halfway through the year. It's crazy.
No.
But I'm working on some really, really cool stuff in terms of robotics and autonomous and artificial intelligence. And I said the data center is back. I never thought I would be back in the data center.
Yes.
But the data
It's
center
now
is
the
kind of cool.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of cool again, you know? And then I also do a lot of consumer electronics things. The thing that my joke is I do pretty much anything you put in your car, home, data center, or pocket. And maybe in
There
the
you go.
future, a rocket, you know? But I don't do fashion. The name of your show I love because I've always felt as the quote PR she devil, which was a name given to me by a venture capitalist, is it's a good she devil because I'm crafty and creating stories and that. But sometimes you got in your stilettos or whatever shoes you have on, you have to be a trained assassin to get your work done.
Yeah.
You come from back, you know, to be the non-hidden figures. So I think all of us are in this together. All of us have some form of curiosity and precociousness and asking the question why, or we wouldn't be in any careers that are actually STEM focused.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I would encourage you, as a listener who's just heard that, to take her up on that offer. It's a lot of times easy to go, yeah, 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 but I could never do that. Here's my challenge to you, dear listener. Do that thing. Be curious, see what happens here. Because you can do social experiments in addition to scientific experiments. So let's try that one and connect with our guest. What are your final words of wisdom today, Donna?
Wow, my final words of wisdom. Today's Feel Good Friday, so I think yeah, I had a really active, busy week, but this week I felt most thankful and grateful for everything that I've had access to in my career. But it wasn't given to me. I've had to work for it. I've worked hard for it, and the rewards are great. And so that's when it comes to networking, I like to share my wealth. I'm in the process of writing my book. It's almost done. It's going to get a nice cleanse and then it's going to make the bookshelves next year. And I'm really excited about it because it's a lot about my journey and my experience, but it's good to give everyone listening on this call the actual tools, like a pocket guide that you're going to need to be able to do it yourself if you don't have the wisdom and you can't afford me in your early stages of your company. But I had to get it down to pen. And
Yeah.
that was a cathartic moment when I actually said, okay, today's the day I'm going to start writing this thing. And I've been working on it for a few years.
You go. That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us here today, Donna. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. And everybody listening, be proud of your authentic story.
And speaking of everybody listening, I would love to hear from you. Drop a comment below this if you're on YouTube, or shoot me an email to Zofia@stemandstilettos.com. I read all the comments, all the suggestions, and I would love to talk to the person that you most admire or take on the topic that has been most challenging for you so we can make that more accessible and get you moving down the road. And until next week, go out, be bold, be beautiful, and be authentically you.